The carbon monoxide alarm began flashing above the lodge fireplace just as my son Daniel reached up to silence it. "Mom set it off because she wanted this weekend to fail," he told the room. For 1 second, every adult in that room looked at me instead of the exit. I remember wondering whether I could get them outside before Daniel turned staying alive into a vote about who loved him. I took the attendance clipboard from the mantel, opened the side door, and told my daughter Mara to lead everyone past the last row of cars. "Nobody goes back in until the responders clear it," I said. Then I called for help and began counting aloud. Daniel laughed once, sharply. "Listen to her. She has been waiting all weekend to take over." I kept counting. At 22, I stopped. There should have been 23 of us. The rain had started as a mist. People pulled jackets over their heads and asked the same 3 questions in 6 different ways. Was the alarm real? Could they get their phones? Had anyone seen Uncle Ray? Daniel stood under the lodge awning with one hand on the open door. "This is exactly what she does," he said. "She creates a problem, and then she gets to be the only person who can solve it." My name is Ellen Mercer. I was 64 that fall, 2 years retired from coordinating building services for a public school district. That title sounds more impressive than the work usually felt. Most days it meant knowing which custodian had the boiler room key, which classroom had a teacher on crutches, and which substitute principal would forget that a drill was not finished until every person was counted. I was not a firefighter. I was not an engineer. I could not tell anyone what had caused that alarm. But I knew an alarm was not a family argument. You did not settle it by deciding which person you trusted more. You moved, counted, called, and argued later. "Mara," I said, "check Ray's car. Don't go near the building." She nodded and ran along the gravel shoulder. Daniel held out his hand for the clipboard. "You counted wrong." "Maybe I did. Give it to me." "No." That single word hurt him more than I expected. I saw it in the way his face changed. Not fear, offense. In the parking lot, Mara waved both arms. "I found him!" Uncle Ray came around the far end of a pickup truck, holding a paper pharmacy bag. He had gone to retrieve medication before the alarm started. He had never gone back inside. 23, I said. It was a small relief, but it changed the group. Shoulders lowered. Colleen stopped calling Ray's phone. 2 cousins who had been standing beside Daniel came past the parked cars to join us. My method had not proven the building unsafe. It had proven that I was not confused. 6 weeks earlier, Daniel had carried his father's old reunion binder into my kitchen and set it between us like an inheritance. My husband, Paul, had been dead 14 months by then. For nearly 30 years, Paul had organized the Mercer reunion. He chose a place, kept a list, called the cousins who never answered messages, and remembered that Colleen needed a downstairs room because of her knee. He was good at it, but not effortless. The family remembered Paul standing at the head of a long table with a coffee cup, making the weekend look as if it had arranged itself. I remembered him at midnight checking names against a legal pad, asking whether he had ordered enough decaf, and admitting that he had forgotten to call Ray again. Paul's gift was not that he prevented every problem. It was that he let one other person see it. Usually that person was me. After he died, nobody formally asked Daniel to take over. Daniel announced that he would. I understood why. He was 38, recently divorced, and tired of being described as the son who was still finding his way. His older sister, Mara, had a steady municipal job and a marriage that looked peaceful from the outside. Daniel had changed work twice in 3 years. At Paul's funeral, 3 different relatives had told him, kindly and carelessly, that he was the man of the family now. He wanted one thing the family could point to and say, Daniel handled that. The lodge was more expensive than our usual reunion places. It had a stone fireplace, long tables, and a wall of windows looking toward a narrow lake. Daniel showed me the photographs with the eagerness of a boy. Dad would have loved this, he said. He would have asked about the stairs, I answered. Daniel's smile tightened. I touched the binder. Copy me on the venue messages. I can look at access and safety questions. You can handle everything else. I don't need a supervisor. I offered a second set of eyes. Same thing, from you. I should have paid more attention to that sentence. Instead, I heard grief inside it and stepped back. All right, I said. You plan it. Just promise you won't hide a problem because you think you have to solve it alone. He looked straight at me. I promise. Daniel saw the change too. Great, he said. Everyone is here. Anyone who feels fine can go back inside. The 3 adults nearest him hesitated. We wait, I said. You wait, Daniel replied. The rest of us can decide for ourselves. He was right about that much. Every person there was an adult. I could not order them to stay outside. I could only tell them what I knew, what I did not know, and what I would refuse to help make look safe. Cold rain began falling harder. Colleen rubbed her forehead. I had a headache in there, she said, but I get headaches. It may mean nothing, I said. Stay out anyway. Daniel threw his hands up. Now she is diagnosing people. I said the opposite. You heard her, he told the others. This is what anxiety looks like when someone knows the right vocabulary. That sentence was too polished to have been invented in the parking lot. I knew it before I knew why. My cousin Beth folded her arms. Daniel told us yesterday you might do something like this. Daniel turned on her. I said Mom didn't like the place. You said she gets fixated on safety things now that she is retired. She does. It is an odd thing to hear several people discuss your state of mind while you are standing among them. For 2 years after I retired, I had tried hard not to become the woman who began every sentence with, "At the district, we always..." I did not inspect restaurants. I did not correct exit signs at church. I did not carry a flashlight in my purse. Daniel had taken the one part of my working life that could help us and turned it into a symptom. Mara touched my elbow. Sit in my car for a minute. Inside her hatchback, with the windows cracked, the sound of the alarm was gone. Rain tapped on the roof. I saw a message on Daniel's phone yesterday, she said. From whom? The lodge host. I only saw the preview. It said something about the utility room and alarm again. Daniel swiped it away. He told me it was a duplicate. Do you remember the exact words? No. Then don't add any. She stared at me. You believe me? I believe that is what you remember. That is a very mother answer. It is a very frightened mother answer. Mara looked through the windshield toward her brother. If I say this in front of everyone, he will never forgive me. Maybe. But do not say it for me. Say it only if you think they need to know what you saw. She wiped a clear patch in the fogged glass with her sleeve. He thinks I have always been your favorite. You were easier to raise. She gave me a tired half smile. That is not the same thing, I said. Your brother measures love by how often we protect him from consequences. I helped teach him that. Your father and I kept thinking the next rescue would be the one that gave him solid ground. There had been a forgotten tuition deadline at 19, a car payment at 26, and a landlord at 31 whom Paul had called without telling me. None of those things made Daniel a bad man, but each time we solved the visible problem before Daniel had to speak honestly about it, we made secrecy feel like a bridge someone else would finish building. So this is partly our fault? Mara asked. His choice is his. I am only saying I recognize the road. When we stepped out, Daniel had persuaded 2 cousins to walk toward the lodge. He stood between them, speaking softly now. He had stopped trying to win the whole family and was working one person at a time. I walked to the painted stripe beside the last row of cars. I cannot stop any adult from crossing this line, I said. I also will not write your name down as safe while you are back inside that building. I will tell the responders exactly where you went." One cousin stopped. The other looked at Daniel. "You really think it is fine?" she asked him. Daniel glanced at the lodge. "Maintenance checked the place." That was the first time he said it. "When?" Mara asked. He ignored her and looked at me. "Dad would be ashamed of you," he said. "He handled problems. He didn't perform them." There are sentences that wound because they are cruel. That one wounded because it used a dead man's voice. For a moment I wanted to answer as Paul's wife. I wanted to tell Daniel every private fear his father had confessed about him, and every defense I had offered in return. I wanted to take Paul away from him because Daniel had tried to take Paul away from me. Instead, I answered as his mother. "Your father counted people before chairs," I said. "I am counting people." Mara stepped beside me. "The host sent Daniel a message about the utility room alarm," she said. "I saw part of it yesterday." Daniel turned toward her. "No, you didn't." "I saw a preview. It was check-in information. It said, 'Alarm again.'" "Take that back." Mara's hands were shaking, but her voice did not rise. "I won't." Ray came to stand on her other side. Then Beth moved away from the lodge. The two cousins Daniel had persuaded returned past the cars. That was when the family stopped treating the alarm as a disagreement between Daniel and me. They still did not know whether the building was unsafe. Neither did I. But now they knew there was a question Daniel had not shared. The responders arrived several minutes later. I gave them the count and the little I knew. Daniel tried to follow them toward the lodge, explaining that he was the organizer. One responder held up a hand and kept him outside. Daniel looked almost surprised. The binder, the deposit, and the family name meant nothing at that line. For once, being the organizer did not let him shape what the next person heard. Nobody praised me. Nobody needed to. The important thing was that all 23 of us remained beyond the cars. We waited beneath a picnic shelter while the rain ran from the roof in steady ropes. Colleen's headache eased in the cold air, though I made no meaning of that. Daniel paced. Mara sat with both hands around a paper cup of water. People began to say the kinds of things families say when fear has nowhere useful to go. Ray complained about leaving his good jacket inside. Beth said she had smelled something strange near the hall, then admitted she was probably remembering it because of the alarm. Colleen asked me twice whether she should call her doctor. I told her I could not answer that question and helped her write down the time she had left the building so she could speak clearly if she chose to call. Daniel heard that and gave a bitter laugh. "Still running the show." "I am helping Colleen remember a time," I said. "You always have an explanation. And you have had several." It was the closest I came to striking back. Eventually, a responder told us there was an unsafe combustion-related condition near the utility area. The building needed ventilation and inspection. We could not go back in. Relief moved through the shelter, followed by a silence much heavier than relief. The utility area. Mara had remembered correctly. Colleen looked at Daniel. "Why did the host use the word again?" "We don't know that she did," he said. Mara took out her phone. "We need to call about our bags and where people are supposed to sleep. We can ask." Daniel reached for the phone. Mara stepped away. The host confirmed that she had sent Daniel a message the day before. Maintenance had reset an alarm near the utility room. She had told him to report any recurrence immediately. She did not accuse him of a crime. She did not say the lodge should never have been occupied. She simply repeated what she had sent. Every eye returned to Daniel. He lowered his head. "I got the message," he said. "I handled it." "You deleted it," Mara said. "Maintenance reset the alarm, and you told nobody." He looked at me then. "Because this is what would have happened. Mom would have canceled everything. You don't know that," I said. "I know you know. You knew what you needed everyone else to believe about me." That was the moment the danger changed shape. We were outside. The building was no longer the immediate threat. But I understood that my son had prepared the family to doubt me before the alarm ever sounded. People began arranging motel rooms and rides home. The host told us belongings could be collected later under direction. Nobody promised a refund. Nobody knew what Daniel might recover from the money he had paid. Some relatives were kind in clumsy ways. Beth hugged me and whispered, "I never believed him," though she had stood beside him until the count was complete. Ray offered to tell everyone Daniel had panicked. "He did not panic," I said. "He made choices." Calling it panic would have made the story smaller and easier. A frightened person could be forgiven before dinner. A person who had prepared witnesses to distrust his mother had work to do. After the others left, Daniel and I sat at opposite ends of the picnic shelter. "Do you know what Dad did when something went wrong?" he asked. "He told me." Daniel blinked. "Not everyone," he said. "No, he told one other person. He did not make silence his plan." Daniel pressed both palms against the wet table. He had spent more than he could comfortably afford on the deposit. He had imagined photographs by the lake, a toast beneath the rafters, relatives finally describing him as dependable. When the message came, he called maintenance, heard that the alarm had been reset, and decided the matter was closed. "I had already put so much on my card," he said. "Do you know what it feels like to have everybody waiting for you to mess up?" "Yes." He looked at me as if the possibility had never occurred to him. "When?" "About 20 minutes ago, when they were deciding whether I had invented an alarm." He turned away. I could see the boy he had been when he brought home a broken lamp and blamed the dog. I could also see the adult man who had looked at a warning and decided other adults did not deserve the information because they might choose differently from him. Both were my son. Only one was mine to comfort. Then he told me he had warned 3 relatives that I might make a scene. He admitted that part only after the family thread began filling with replies. Beth wrote that Daniel had called me anxious. Another cousin said he had used the word forgetful. Colleen said he told her retirement had left me with too much time to worry. I sent 4 sentences to the group. The alarm sounded. We evacuated and counted everyone. Responders restricted re-entry because of an unsafe condition. Daniel had received an earlier message about the alarm and had not shared it. I did not call him reckless. I did not call him a liar. Facts did not need my adjectives. Daniel read the message over my shoulder. "Tell them it was a misunderstanding." It was not. "You want them to hate me." I wanted them outside. Same result. No, I said. Being outside was a consequence of the alarm. Losing their trust is a consequence of what you chose. He stood so quickly the bench scraped concrete. "There. That is what you wanted to say all along." "I wanted to say it after everybody was safe. You wanted nobody to be allowed to say it." He left without answering. By 10 that night, Mara had found a community recreation room available the following afternoon. It was plain, with folding chairs, a scuffed floor, and windows that faced a baseball field instead of a lake. It could hold fewer people, and several relatives had already gone home. The family wanted to gather anyway. For a few minutes, everyone tried to hand the ruined reunion to me. I could order food. I could make the calls. I could turn the recreation room into something respectable. The requests came dressed as praise. "You are so good at this. You know what Paul used to do?" "Just this once, Ellen." I recognized the trap because Daniel and I had both lived inside versions of it. If I saved everything, the family would replace one indispensable organizer with another. Daniel could say I had seized the role, and I would spend another decade proving my love by being useful before anyone asked. "No," I said. Mara looked surprised. "I will help," I told her. "I will not replace Daniel as the person who carries everything." 6 adults took one job each. Mara handled the room, Colleen called relatives, Ray arranged rides, 2 cousins bought simple food. I kept the contact list and confirmed that nobody intended to return to the lodge. The recreation room manager said we could enter at noon. Mara repeated that fact in the group message, instead of promising the room would somehow be ready by 11:30. That tiny honesty felt like the first beam of a new house. Daniel texted shortly before noon. "I am coming. It is still my reunion." He arrived carrying Paul's binder. For years, that binder had sat on the corner of our kitchen counter every autumn. It contained lists, phone numbers, old menus, and notes in Paul's square handwriting. Inside the front cover, Paul had written, "Ask Ellen before final count." Daniel laid it on a folding table and began assigning jobs. "Ray, the coffee goes by the west wall. Mara, those tables should be in 2 rows. Mom, can you call the people who have not answered?" Nobody argued with him. They simply continued doing the jobs they already had. Mara taped a sheet beside the door with 6 names and 6 responsibilities. Colleen asked Ray where to put the coffee. A cousin told Daniel the chairs were already arranged. He looked at me. "So this is the trial?" "No." "Then what is it?" "A gathering. Where everyone proves they don't need me. Where nobody has to be needed that much." He picked up the binder and opened it to Paul's old room diagram. "Dad had one person in charge. Dad asked for help in private, from you, because he trusted you, and because he did not believe needing help erased him." For a second, Daniel's anger gave way to grief so naked that I nearly crossed the room. Nearly. Comfort was not wrong. Timing mattered. If I comforted him before he accepted the limits, he would hear that his pain had canceled them. I did not make a speech. I did not ask the family to vote him out. I said only what would govern my own participation. From now on, if I am part of a family plan, I need to hear the problem before I hear how someone fixed it. I will not attend something where silence is the price of making one person look capable. Mara said, "That works for me." Colleen nodded. Then Ray did. Other people kept setting out cups and unfolding chairs. The new arrangement became real because they acted inside it. Daniel was invited to stay. He was not invited to organize. He sat through lunch at the edge of the room. When anyone looked as if they might comfort him by minimizing the previous night, Mara redirected the conversation. The meal was not magical. The sandwiches were plain. We ran out of diet soda. Rain canceled the walk Mara had planned around the baseball field. Still, people talked. Ray told a story about Paul getting lost on the way to a reunion in 1998. Colleen corrected every detail. For the first time since my husband died, the family remembered him as a man who had made mistakes instead of a standard his son could never meet. Daniel listened without speaking. At the end, Colleen came to me with a paper cup of coffee. "Thank you for getting us out," she said. Then she asked whether I wanted half of the last cookie. That ordinary change of subject was a kindness. I did not want to become the hero of the reunion any more than I wanted to remain its villain. After cleanup, I found Paul's binder on an empty chair. Daniel had gone. I took the binder home, but I did not put it back on the kitchen counter. I stored it in a closet. It held useful phone numbers. It did not hold the right to command us. Daniel did not apologize that day. For 3 weeks, he left messages that moved between anger and regret. In one, he said Mara had betrayed him. In another, he said I had enjoyed embarrassing him. In a third, he said he was sorry things got out of hand. I listened to each message once. The old version of me would have called back after the second one. I would have separated his defensiveness from his sorrow, translated both into gentler language, and offered him the apology he could not yet form. Paul used to say I could hear the good intention beneath almost any bad sentence. He meant it as praise. That month, I began to wonder whether it had always been a gift. Mara wanted me to block Daniel. "I won't make you speak to him," she said. "And you won't become the new person who controls who speaks to whom," I answered. She frowned. "I am trying to protect you." Then let me choose what protection looks like. That conversation mattered almost as much as the one I still needed to have with Daniel. Safety could become control even in loving hands. I did not want our family's lesson to be that the correct person should hold all the power. I chose one time each Sunday to listen to Daniel's messages. I did not discuss reunion plans. I did not answer accusations. If he wanted to speak directly and truthfully, he knew when I would pick up. The next family event was Colleen's birthday in a public garden room. The invitation listed 3 responsibilities beside 3 names. A 4th line was blank for a volunteer. I brought a small gift and nothing else. That felt almost rude. For 30 years I had carried spare napkins, tape, pain reliever, safety pins, and a second dessert in case the first one failed. I stood in my hallway with my familiar tote bag, then left it on the chair. At the garden room, Mara was responsible for access. Ray had drinks, Beth had food. When the sandwich delivery was late, 12 faces turned toward me. The old reflex was so visible that we all almost laughed. Beth looked at the clock. "This one is mine." She called the shop, adjusted the serving time, and found crackers in the room's cabinet. She told everyone lunch would be 20 minutes late. Nobody starved, nobody hid the delay, nobody needed to be rescued. Colleen opened her gifts before the sandwiches arrived. Ray poured coffee into paper cups. The event bent without breaking. I sat beside a window and watched rain collect on new leaves. For the first time at a family gathering, I was not responsible for whether everyone else was comfortable. The relief came with sadness. Paul and I had built much of our marriage around being the people who noticed. Giving up automatic responsibility felt, briefly, like giving up a language we had spoken together. Then Mara sat beside me without asking a question or handing me a task. We watched the rain. Daniel did not attend. He sent Mara an apology addressed to me and asked her to forward it. She returned it. "Call her yourself," she wrote. She showed me the exchange only after she had sent it. "Was that gatekeeping?" she asked. "No, you sent him to the open door." 2 days later, my phone rang. Daniel did not begin well. "I got stressed," he said. "That is how you felt." "Isn't that what you want me to explain?" "I want you to name what you did." There was a long silence. "I hid the message," he said. "I told people you might cause trouble. I called you forgetful because I wanted them to doubt you before you spoke. And I tried to get them back inside." Hearing it hurt more than his earlier half-apologies. It also gave us something real to stand on. "Why?" I asked. "Because I thought if the reunion failed, Dad was right about me." "What did you think he was right about?" "That I never finish anything." Paul had said those words once, 7 years earlier, after Daniel abandoned a training program with 2 weeks left. He had apologized the next morning. Daniel had accepted the apology and kept the sentence. "Your father worried about you," I said. "He also loved you. Do not turn either thing into permission." "I know." "No, you know how to say that. Knowing will be what you do next time." "Can you forgive me?" "I can hear that you are sorry. I do not know what you will do the next time telling the truth embarrasses you." He breathed into the phone. "So what am I supposed to do?" "Tell us the problem early enough that we still have a choice." He asked whether he could come to my house. I said not yet. That was difficult for both of us. A direct conversation did not entitle him to immediate access, and my boundary did not erase the progress of the call. The next gathering was Ray's retirement picnic. Daniel attended without a job. He arrived early, looked at the posted list, and sat at a table. Twice I saw him begin to stand when someone asked where supplies belonged. Twice he let the assigned person answer. Nobody punished him. Nobody handed him the park. Near the end, a gust lifted the corner of a plastic tablecloth. Daniel put a cup on it, then asked Beth whether she wanted the other tables secured. "Yes, please," she said. It was an absurdly small exchange. I remembered it all week. At a summer potluck, Daniel was asked to help with cleanup. He did it without rearranging the rest of the plan. When he wanted to move a table, he asked Mara, who was assigned to the room. Afterward, he walked me to my car. "Do I get to stop being on probation?" he asked. "This is not probation. It feels like it." Probation has a date when somebody declares you finished. Trust does not. He looked away, but he did not argue. "I miss Dad," he said. "So do I." For several minutes, that was all we talked about. These were small acts. That was why I trusted them more than a grand gesture. Daniel could perform a speech. He could buy an expensive weekend. Waiting for another adult to answer a question cost him more. The rotation changed the rest of us, too, and not always gracefully. At the end of August, Mara volunteered to arrange a Sunday supper at a neighborhood hall. 2 days before it, she learned that the hall's main entrance would be closed for sidewalk work. The manager offered a side entrance, but there were 4 steps and no ramp. Colleen could manage them slowly, yet Mara knew that accepting the change without asking would repeat the same mistake in a smaller form. She called the 6 people who had accepted tasks. "I can find another room," she said, "but I wanted everyone to know the problem before I started moving things." There was no alarm. Nobody was in danger. Still, I felt the sentence settle over us. Ray preferred to keep the hall. Beth offered her church basement. Colleen said she could take the steps but did not want the family deciding for her in either direction. Daniel was on the call. Months earlier, he would have announced a solution before the rest of us finished speaking. This time, he asked Colleen what mattered most to her. "I want to enter without 6 people watching me climb," she said. The church basement had a level door, so Beth checked its availability. The supper moved. The change cost us a small cleaning fee and meant everyone had to update one address. Nobody called the afternoon ruined. At the church, Colleen came through the side door carrying a bowl of potato salad. Daniel held it while she took off her coat. He did not tell anyone that his question had helped solve the problem. I noticed. I said nothing. Later, Mara and I washed serving spoons at the narrow sink. "Was I overdoing it?" she asked, "calling everybody about 4 steps? What do you think?" "I think I was afraid of becoming him." I dried a spoon. "Asking people to choose is not the same as needing everybody to approve of you." "That sounds like something you practiced." All summer. Mara had been the first person to stand beside me in the parking lot. For a while, that had made her feel responsible for enforcing every boundary Daniel crossed. She corrected him before I could answer. She watched my face whenever he entered a room. Once, she called to warn me that he had sounded irritated in a message I had not asked her to hear. Her protection came from love, but love did not make it harmless. After the supper, I asked her to walk with me around the church parking lot. "When Daniel asks me something, let me answer," I said. "What if he corners you?" "Then I will leave." "What if you freeze?" "Then I will tell you I need help." She kicked a loose pebble ahead of us. "I am trying not to let him do it again." "So am I. But if our new family rule is that you decide what I can handle, we have only changed organizers." That landed hard. Mara crossed her arms and walked half a row ahead of me. I let her be angry. At the lodge, I had protected the family by acting before everyone agreed. That did not mean every later discomfort was an emergency. Recovery required me to tell the difference. It required Mara to tell the difference too. The next morning she called. "I heard you," she said. "I did not like it, but I heard you." "Thank you. If you need me, ask. I will." That promise mattered because Mara kept it. At the next gathering, Daniel and I spoke alone for 10 minutes near the coffee table. She glanced over once, saw that I was steady, and returned to her conversation. Daniel noticed that too. "She is not guarding you anymore," he said. "She is trusting me." He looked down at his cup. "I made that difficult." "Yes." He did not ask me to soften the answer. 4 months after the lodge, Daniel called me on a Thursday afternoon. "There is a problem with the room for Saturday," he said. My body tightened before my mind caught up. "What problem?" "The refrigerator stopped cooling. The manager says they can replace it tomorrow, but Mara already ordered food that needs to stay cold. I have not changed anything. I have not called the caterer. I am telling you first." I sat down on my porch step. "Have you told the assigned planners?" "You were my first call. They are next." "Then call them." "What do you think we should do?" "I think they should choose." He was quiet. "All right," he said. Then, before we ended the call, he said, "I promise I am not going to make silence the price of a successful gathering again." It was not a beautiful sentence. It sounded like mine because it used words I had given him. But a promise does not become false because someone needs help finding its language. It becomes true or false afterward. Daniel called Mara and the food coordinator. They chose to bring coolers until the replacement refrigerator was ready. Nobody canceled. Nobody pretended there was no problem. That Saturday, Daniel carried ice because that was the task the group gave him. The coolers sweated onto old towels while 3 relatives checked labels and laughed about the improvised arrangement. Before lunch, he checked the room with Mara. Not secretly, not as the man who had to make every problem disappear. He pointed out what he had noticed and waited while she answered. When a cousin asked who was in charge, Daniel pointed to the posted list. "Depends what you need," he said. I watched from the doorway. My son had not become a different person in 1 season. I had not forgotten the sound of him telling our family that I wanted them to fail. Mara had not forgotten being ordered to take back the truth. Colleen still asked whether the lodge had ever refunded Daniel, and I still told her I did not know. The family had not reached a neat ending. We had reached a durable condition. Trust did not return as a feeling. It returned as a series of moments in which Daniel could have hidden something and chose not to. It also returned in moments when the rest of us noticed a problem and did not immediately look for one person to carry it. Mara stopped translating Daniel's messages. Beth admitted delays before anyone asked. I learned to attend with 1 dish instead of a tote bag full of solutions. When Daniel came toward me, he did not ask whether I was proud of him. "Anything else you see?" he asked. I looked around the room. The exits were clear, the list was posted, people were arriving with dishes and questions, and no one person was expected to carry all of them. "No," I said. "You told them early enough to choose." He nodded. Then I went inside with him.